Hi everybody. In this video, I'm just going to show you some strategies for creating some simple, effective logos for your custom header for a web page. So the thing I just want to show you at first, before I even do any logo designs, is a few examples of famous logos. If you take a look, one of the themes you're going to notice, this isn't always true, but you're going to notice that honestly they're usually pretty simple. Look at the Walmart logo. It's just text and a few kind of blocky lines. This one's a little more complex. The Apple's just a very plain picture of an apple. Microsoft is just geometric shapes, just some squares arranged kind of like the window, like a window for Windows, and says Microsoft. Google is just text. IBM is text with lines through it. The McDonald's logo is just a stylized M. Toyota is a little more complex, but Samsung is just an oval with text over it. Ford is an oval with text over it and a ring around it, just kind of concentric ovals. A little more complex there. Really, I mean, it might look a little more complex, but really, it's just a rectangle with rounded edges, and then a circle cut out of it, and some space cut out where the H and the P cut through it. So it's still mostly just a rectangle with a circle. And then, again, it's not always true. Some of them are pretty complex shapes. But, I mean, you can see a lot of examples of pretty simple logos that are really famous brands. So, I mean, Verizon's just a red check mark after it. So, I just kind of want to show you, I just wanted to point that out because in this assignment, your task is going to be to create some logos, some logo designs for fictional companies, and you could even design your own sort of redesign, come up with your own idea for real companies if you really want to try that instead. So let me just kind of walk you through a few examples. You don't have to do these exact things that I do. I just kind of want to show you how kind of straightforward it can be. You can get something pretty useful out of it. So I'm going to start, let's call it logo. And I'm going to make the width 960 pixels. That's a pretty standard page width for a lot of web pages. So I'm just going to kind of go with that for the width so that if it's full screen, it's at full resolution. And height, it's going to vary depending on how big, depending on how tall the design ends up being. I think I'm going to I'll make a really short one first. So I'll go with just 200 pixels. So it'll just be short. It'll just be kind of a strip at the top that would be like just the header. So for this one, for both of these, I'm going to make a fictional company. The company that I thought up to make these designs for is like an audio company. It'll be called Peak Sounds. So Peak Sounds, their logo will be some sort of mountain, like a peak, and I'll just put some text in there. So triangles make good mountains. So I'm just going to try to work with triangles here. To draw my shapes, I'm just going to use polygonal lasso. If you're using ellipses and rectangles, it's even easier because Photoshop or Photopea will lock in a rectangular or an elliptical shape with the marquee tools. You have to be a little more careful drawing your own, but I'll just go ahead and instead of making triangles, so I'm going to make triangles. So you'll notice I created a new layer over here because I don't want to be drawing on the background. I want my background I want to be able to change my background color without affecting my design, and possibly remove the background too. Again, I don't want any components on the background. So I'll just draw a rectangle, or I'll just draw a triangle. I'm going to try to do this kind of quickly because it's just a demo, so it might not be perfect. You might want to take a little more care for how symmetrical things are, but I'm just going to kind of rush through it. And I'll choose my color. I think I already kind of was working with some shade of blue. I'll go a little bit more gray blue. Fill in my selected area, and I have a triangle. Now I'm going to just copy that triangle. I'll make a selection, copy paste that selection, and I'm just going to move it so it's offset a little bit. Let me undo that. I'm going to hold shift so that it moves in a straight line. And I've already got something that could potentially be two mountains, kind of one in front of the other. One thing I would like to do to make it just a little bit, just to kind of stylize it a little bit, make it a little more interesting, is I'll cut away a section in between them. So I'm going to use a rectangular selection. I'm just going to draw a long rectangle and then select transform selection so I can angle it. I'll just kind of turn this selection. Try to move it into place. Zoom in a little bit. Try to line this up so it's parallel with the other triangle. I just want to cut away this slice right here. So that's what I think that'll be good. And I'll just fill it. I mean, I could either remove that section of that layer, or I could actually just fill it with white. Either way will work. Removing it would allow a transparent background to shine, like to let the background show through. So I think that's what I'll do. Unless I want white to be part of the logo, so you have to kind of make that decision. If you want a white streak to be part of the logo instead of transparency, then you should make it white. Actually, kind of changed my mind. I'm gonna make it a white. I'll make it white. Yeah. I'll just fill that in with white. And I've got my mountains. So it's just kind of like stylized triangles. It kind of looks like a mountain next to a mountain. And I will add some text. Choose my font. Kind of want sort of like a I'm not really sure. I kind of want something like bold. Something bold and serifed so that you can actually filter. So I'm going to make sure I only have serifed fonts. I'll remove like comic and all these like weird fonts and calligraphy and sans serif script. And what do I call this? Peak sound. And then I'll have to resize. I want this to be just a little bit larger. And this shade of blue. there's my logo. I mean, sort of at a most basic level, that's all it has to be. It's just some sort of stylized shapes and some text that fits what you're going for. So I'll also demonstrate one more, somewhat more complex. So let's create a new one. I'll go with 960 width again. I'm gonna start it at 960 height too. I'm not gonna stay that way. I'm just not sure how tall it's gonna be. I'll shrink the canvas later. Create a new layer. And what I want this to be is I'll make it a same company, same audio company, Peak Sounds. I want to make a mountain, but I want it to be a little bit more stylized mountain. I want to maybe put like a snow-capped peak on it, and that'll just be made out of triangles. And then maybe I'll cut some ovals to make, I'll sort of make some rings out of ovals and then cut off a bunch of it. And that will be sort of like, it'll kind of look like, like ripples of sound waves, kind of like you see with the like the icon for sound on a computer where it has like the little lines coming out of the speaker. It'll be kind of like that, but radiating out of a mountain. So let me just make my mountain. I just want to draw a triangle inside this triangle. I'll fill that white. It doesn't really quite look snow-capped enough. So what I'll do, I'll make a few more triangular cuts out of this. This is just kind of two triangles. I'll just kind of do them all at once. And that looks like a snow-capped mountain. So I've got my snow-capped mountain. I'm also going to add, just going to kind of work on this in another section of the canvas and then kind of move them into place. So I just want to start with a large oval. just going to remove. That's not what I want at all. Just want to remove an area. It's just going to be a smaller oval. Transform my selection, make this a little bit larger. Now that I've got one oval, I can just copy, paste, take the copy, shrink it, paste another copy, that should be pretty good. So now what I'd like to do is just cut away a bunch of this oval so that I actually just have the lines in the end, so it kind of looks like sound wave symbol. So I was kind of make a selection of what I want to get rid of. I think what I'll do to make sure it's symmetrical is just make one. So I'll get rid of all that. I have to go through each layer. So I just selected layer 1, 2, and 3 and removed the rings from each of those. And now I think what I'll do is merge those layers. Once I'm sure I want to keep it, I'll merge the layers. I think that should be, it's a little bit too round. It'll be fine though. This is just supposed to be a quick demo. If I had unlimited time, I'd probably keep tweaking this and make it a little bit like taller than it is wide, and I could tweak it infinitely. I think I'll spare you that, and I'll just make a copy of this. All right, now I'll just add some text to the bottom. And it looks a little plain. I know this isn't just a geometric shape, but it won't be too hard to just add some filters to this to make it look cool. There. So after a little bit of tweaking, my logo has some sort of dirt and distortion added to it, some texture. I think that makes for a better look for that. And I'll just shrink my canvas because it really doesn't need to be this big. All right, so there's a more complex logo design, but really it's all based on geometric shapes. All I did was take a triangle, add some more white triangles over the top of a black triangle, make some ovals, cut some rings out of the ovals, and then remove a whole bunch of extra stuff from the ovals, and add some text. So it was nothing but triangles, ovals, and I did apply a filter, but the shapes aren't anything other than basic shapes. So there's another example. So as you can see, you kind of can just take some shapes, work with the shapes, kind of blending them together and adding and removing until you kind of form the design element that you want, and add some text to it, and there you go. So I hope that's helpful as you create your own logos.